Okay, so here's a really basic Illustrator tutorial. The first thing we need to do is hit Control N to make a new document. I'm going to call it Lily since we're going to be tracing this sketch of a lily that I found on Google Images. It doesn't matter what size you use because we're working with vector graphics, so you can scale it up or down to any size later when you're done or getting ready to print it. Hit OK, and then the first thing I do is I hit Control Shift H to hide the artboards because I like working with a big open canvas as opposed to confined in a print size space. Because we're working with vectors, we can set up our artboards later when we're done. But that's just a personal preference. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is drag in our reference image. And there are a lot of ways to do that, but the way I like to do it is I hit File, and then Place, and then I know it's called Lily Wee for some reason. And so I select it and hit Place, and it'll just drop it right in the center of my canvas. We don't need to scale this, but I would like to show you some of the scaling options because they're really useful. If you just drag from any point on the image, you can scale it to any size, but it's not going to stay proportional. And so if you want it to stay proportional with the original dimensions, you just hit Shift and it'll lock it to those proportions. But if you want to scale it from the center, you just hit Shift and then Alt also, and it'll scale from the center. And so those are the three main scaling styles. I'm not going to scale it at all, so I'm going to hit Control Z and put it back. But that's a really useful thing to know. Alright, the first thing we really need to do is go into our layers, and here's our lily image right here. See, it's linked. And we're going to call this reference, and we're going to lock it, because we don't want to accidentally be dragging it around or anything like that while we're trying to trace over it. Locking it's really important. Another thing you do is turn down its opacity. Yeah, we gotta unlock it to do that, but we could change its opacity, 50 or something. Whoops. If you didn't want it to be so bright. I guess I'll keep it at 50. It doesn't really matter. The way I selected it is if you hit to the right of this circle on all the layers, it will select all children of that layer. So the way it works in Illustrator as opposed to Photoshop, I don't know if you're very familiar with Photoshop's layer panel, but they are pretty different. Layers in Illustrator work more like groups in Photoshop. And so when you have a group in Photoshop, you just have all the child layers of that one group that you can manipulate, all as one whole. In Illustrator, they just call it layers for some reason. I don't know why. But that's how they roll. We're going to lock it again. We're going to make a new layer. And we're going to start working. Let's call this layer Lily, because it's good to stay organized. And let's actually save our progress so far. I'm just going to call it Lily. Save it on the desktop. I'm going to upload this for you so you can download it to see exactly what I did if you have any questions or anything like that. Okay, so to zoom in, hold down Alt and just scroll up on the mouse or scroll down on the mouse. And if you hold down Control, you'll go left and right. So let's zoom in here. Let's start with this curve right here. So hit P and just draw out a little simple line here. Let's see. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it doesn't really matter how accurate it is with the source image, because in the end it's up to you. That's pretty good. So hit V, and the first thing we need to do is get rid of this fill. So this is the fill color, this is the stroke color. So I have the fill color selected. I'm going to hit the slash right over here. That deletes it. We could also make it, any other color, but I don't want it to have a color at all. I just want it to be just the stroke, since we're outlining. The curve looks pretty good, but we can adjust it all after the fact. So let's just get the rest done for now. Hit the P tool or P button again, and then it'll bring up the pen tool. And let's trace out this bottom line. That didn't quite work. That's pretty good. I like the way this flower goes out like that. So I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit as opposed to following the reference image exactly. Drag this out. That's pretty good. And yeah, that's about what we want it to be. So if you hit enter, you can just start drawing another line without having to deselect or reselect the pen tool. So let's do this part right here, this lower half of the flower. Oops, that is not what I wanted. Let's try that again. There we go. That's about right. Hit enter, and we'll do it again right here. This one only needs 2 points. That's pretty much good. Hit enter, and let's do this little lip right here. Yeah, that only needs 2 points as well. Pretty good. Okay, so let's go in and do this, I don't know, what do you call this in botany? The bulb or something? Okay, so the way I like to do curves like this, that are really sharp, is I'll just make 2 points or 3 points, like that, and then hit Shift C, and I'll bring up the Convert Anchor tool, and then just drag out from that top point. There we go, that's exactly what we want. Okay, so let's hit V to use the selection tool. Scroll out a little bit. I don't like the way this is curving. I want this to be sharp. So let's hit Shift C again and just click on the anchor point that's right here somewhere. Wait, where the hell is it? What? Oh, there it is. So Shift C and click on it, and it'll take away its curves. So that's what this tool does. It allows you to manipulate one anchor point's curves really easily. So you just click on it, you can make it sharp or delete its curves. But if you click and drag, you can give it curves. Then if you select a specific handle, you can manipulate the curves, you know, on their own. So we don't want any curves at all. We just want it to be sharp. Whoops. So let's hit V. Come down here, see what this is looking like. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so what we want to do now is, if we hide our base layer, you can see it looks okay, but it's not what we want. What we want is some really nice like fading going on with these individual lines, so it really looks a lot more artistic. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this one, come up to the strokes panel. You can also do it from up here, but I like to use the strokes panel because there's a few more options. Let's make the weight 2 points, and let's change the profile. This is the key right here. The stroke profile is really versatile, and you can use patterns, you can use colors, you can use all sorts of things. I like the basic ones though, because they're the most commonly used ones. You know, for most projects, you can complete them with just using the basic profiles. So what I did is I selected the profile that goes thin, fat, thin, and you can see that's what our stroke does now. It starts thin, gets fat, and then goes thin. We want to do that with this one as well. We'll give it a little bit more weight. Maybe 3 points? Yeah, 3 points is about right, I think. Select this one right here and do the same thing. Except let's give it 2 points. 2 points is a little much, actually. Let's go back down to 1. That looks about right. This anchor point is fading through, so hit A, click on it, and then drag it up, and do the same thing down here. I want it to be right about in the middle. Whoops. Of this line right here. Okay, let's scroll out. What else is there to do? Okay, so these two lines right here, we don't want them to start thin and then get fat and then go thin again. We just want them to start fat from up here and then get thin, because they're just wrapping behind. They're not like, you know, disappearing. They're not, you know, discrete curves. So let's select both of them and give them the profile down here that goes fat to thin. And that's exactly what we want. We'll give it a little bit more weight, and that's it. That's pretty much perfect. Okay, so what you would do now is go in, you know, and build this stem, and you know, do some shading and things like that. And that's always the most time-consuming part, is, you know, detailing out the image. But that's just a general idea for rough outlining, things like that. One thing I'll do now, actually, just to give you an idea of, you know, some of the techniques you can use. We'll make a new layer and we'll call it details. It's definitely important to stay organized. And hit P, and then go down here, and we'll just drag out a couple lines like that. You know, that's sort of going along with the reference image. And see, this one comes out here. I really like that. That's pretty cool. And what we'll do with these is the same thing. We'll just oops, go to the stroke, give it that thin one, and we could probably change it to a slightly smaller size as well. Let's see, let's go like 0.5 points and give it maybe a grayish color. I don't know what this is going to look like. Yeah, that's interesting. Whatever. Kind of a mistake. Over time, though, I mean, if you really did that with each line and things like that, eventually the image will take on, just a whole new life of its own and get really, really interesting looking. But yeah, that's the general tutorial. I don't really know what else to show you. I mean, that's like 99% of what you're probably going to want to be doing. I mean, that's all I ever do on your stickers. I don't really spend a lot of time doing other things. I mostly just trace it out. On the really complicated ones, it just takes a long time to get everything right, and you might run into some weird things. Here, I'll open up. There it is. So here's the sticker that I did, and one of the problems I had was getting the ears right by doing just the method that I showed you. And what I ended up doing was just creating. Here, let's see if we can find it. Yeah, it's right there. Let's isolate it. So what I did is I just drew out like this big black shape for both ears, and then I went in later and I created these individual white lines over them to fill the gaps. But on the reference photo, it's more like individual strokes and things like that, with the white sort of bleeding through haphazardly. And so you might have to do some creative things like that. I did the same thing here. It's like this is an individual shape. See, because it's lines, I didn't have enough line density there to really create that shape, and you can't really achieve this kind of look with just stroke paths. And so just being aware of that is pretty important, I guess. It's a really versatile program, and there's a lot of different ways you can solve problems. So yeah, just be creative. If you have any questions, definitely Google it. There are a lot of really, really good tutorials and sites out there that make Illustrator not only easy to learn, but also pretty fun and interesting. Anyway, cool. I'm going to upload this and a cheat sheet right here to my website, and you can just watch it on there and download this file. This is really useful. Like, I don't even know all these shortcuts, but use as many shortcuts as you can. It'll save time, and it'll really really help you get familiar with the tools rather than fucking around in the interface trying to find like something that's tucked away in some obscure part of the GUI. Anyway, that's it. Enjoy.